Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm Candace, and this is Coffee and Crime. This is my first video I've done on serial killers. I plan on doing more than just serial killers. I'd like to, if this goes well, I like to do like mysteries and anything else. So if any suggestions after watching my video of something to do, I love doing the research, and I love learning these things. So just drop a comment and let me know. And also, for the story isn't for the faint of heart. Trigger warnings, like off the chain. There's cruelty to animals, death of animals, SA, necrophilia, cannibalism, you name it. This story has it. It's pretty gross. I wouldn't advise anyone to watch it. That if you have issues with anything, pretty much. Like I said, it's oh God, it's everything. I did a video. I already did this once earlier, and I didn't like it. There's a lot of details, a lot. I've seen documentaries done about him, and they just talk about like the rampage he went on, and that's the best way I can describe it. Is he went on a rampage. He committed it's not this serial killer. It's not how many people he killed. It's how many he did in such a short period of time. It was just a few weeks apart. He started off with exhibiting signs of being a serial killer, and had he not been caught, God knows what all he would have done, what damage he would have caused. But his name is Trenton Chase. He was born in Sacramento, California, May 23rd, 1950, hence Vampire of Sacramento. He also had several other names, but it's like Dracula, basically, because what he done to his victims, which I'll tell about, later on. I start off with, everyone says serial killers are triggered like by their childhood, but in this case, from what I read, there was nothing really his parents didn't do anything other than, in my opinion, going not getting him help, not paying him any attention, thinking that he was just lazy, or anyway, I'll get into that too later on. But his father's Richard Sr., and his mother's Beatrice, and later on down the line, I guess they had a daughter named Pamela. He was raised in a normal home. His father disciplined him. From what they said, it was normal discipline. It wasn't abusive. It was just when he, misbehaved, he got in trouble. But the parents argued all the time. The mother accused the father of cheating. I guess they went on a family camping trip, and he disappeared for a few minutes, and she accused him of hiding a woman in the bushes on a camping trip. So I guess there was really bad issues between the parents. Maybe that's why his mental state just kind of got ignored by the past. But there was no abuse, and there was no mental abuse either, from what I've read. But I guess he showed signs of something, because he was taken to a psychiatrist, and they did something called the McDonald Triad. It's a 3-part test, and it's to show if a person's capable of violent behavior, such as homicide or sexual predatorial behaviors, things like that. And the 3 signs are, let's see, what was it? I don't know about. It was animal cruelty, arson, and bedwetting after the age of 5. So I take it he exhibited all three. He basically aced it. If you want to call it passing, he passed with flying colors. Um, Sorry, I'm reading, looking at my computer, trying so I don't mess up any facts. But nothing was done about it. I mean, he showed signs, and the psychiatrist showed that he had potential for violence, and nothing happened. I guess one of his first instances of strange behavior occurred during his teen years when he started to believe he was a member of the James Younger gang. Like, he went as far as to place his head onto members of members' bodies, and tried to sell the pictures for money, to purchase a cowboy hat. For some reason, his mom didn't want to buy him the cowboy hat, but he wanted that cowboy hat so bad he was trying to sell his own photos. But anyway, he was described as popular and clean cut, cared about his appearance through high school. But then when he got older, adulthood, he became more withdrawn and unkept, stopped caring about everything. But he was dating in high school in thanks, Marie. He was dating in high school in 1965. Women liked him, obviously, from what it sounds. And one of the women, she doesn't want to go by her real name, but her pseudonym is Libby Christopher. She told about an instance, how they attempted to have intercourse, and he couldn't perform due to impotency. And it didn't cause her to break up with him at the time, but eventually the continual failure caused she caused the breakup. But anyway, so after splitting up in 1966, I guess he went ahead and finished high school, and he graduated, and he decided he went to college. But between 68 and 71, his grades started declining, and he started skipping classes, and just all around just decided to drop out. So another sign of mental problems. Started not caring about your parents, started not caring about your classes and your grades, about your life, basically. He developed hypochondria as he grew older. Most people know what this is, but I'm going to explain it. An anxiety disorder or mental illness characterized by excessive or persistent worrying about something being wrong with you, like serious medical conditions or illnesses, despite being reassured by medical professionals that you're fine. He often complained about his heart not beating, believed someone stole his pulmonary artery. He placed oranges on his head, believing that vitamin C could be absorbed via the brain through the skin, like diffusion. I don't know. And at one point, he believed that his cranial bones had become separated and were moving around inside his head, to the point where he shaved his head so that he could watch it happen. Anyways, so I'm just going to skip all the college crap and all that. He was having problems his whole life. After college, he dropped out. He ended up being bounced back and forth from mom and dad. Eventually, he moved in with his grandparents. And there was a stint where he had his own apartment, but he ended up running his roommates off because of his odd behavior, walking around nude in front of strange guests, walking around nude all the time, and locking himself in the room because that way no one could sneak up behind him. So he was also paranoid. And then he had other roommates move in after they left, and they left too. And so he eventually moved in with his grandparents, and the grandma said he exhibited odd behavior as well. So everywhere he went with signs, just everything crazy. And his parents didn't want nothing to do with him. So, especially since in 1972, his mother called 911 because they were arguing, and he conked her over the head with a phone. She managed to be still alive because she ran, jumped over a fence, and called for help. And then when the police arrived, she refused to press charges, which she really should have done. But so he started getting delusional and paranoid. Like when he moved in with his grandma, he believed that someone was trying to break in through the window. His grandmother also heard him talking to himself often, found him standing on his head in the corner of his room, trying to get the blood to go back down to his head, he says, and something about his legs and arms always hurting him, and his heart was hurting him. Anyway, he left for some time, and then he ended up coming back to her house, which he got a job, but he got fired within a few days. He couldn't maintain, he couldn't keep a job. And the grandma reported that he had deteriorated during his second visit. Alright, so anyways, everything just kept getting worse and worse and worse, to the point where he called an ambulance, and the ambulance wouldn't do anything to help him because there was nothing medically wrong with him. And he was upset about it, and convinced his mother to get him an appointment with a doctor. The doctor found nothing wrong with him other than psychotic, he was very psychotic, he said, to major proportions. And anyway, in 73, he killed one of his cats because he saw something on TV about a cat getting medical help. He was jealous that the cat got better medical care than him, he thought. But he believed he deserved those treatments, not the cat. So he killed his cat. But anyway, he eventually got his own place. And it was right down the road from a rabbit farm. And he bought rabbits, and he ate them raw. Just bought them to eat them. His father had come and visit for Chess, and when asked about the rabbits, Chase would simply say he had them to eat. The father never looked into it any further, but in 1967, he was involuntarily committed once again to a mental institution after injected rabbit blood into his veins. His father found him vomiting and barely moving, barely alive. He was suffering from blood poisoning. After telling the hospital staff about a bizarre story about eating a rabbit that had battery acid in its stomach, they concluded he was mentally ill. He constantly complained about being weak, saying his body was falling apart and refused to participate in activities, so he was eventually transferred to Beverly Manor Psychiatric Hospital, where the staff nicknamed him Dracula because of his blood fixation. While there, he broke the necks of 2 birds and drank their blood. Yeah, that's gross. And also extracted blood from therapy dogs with stolen syringes. In 1976, he was released into his mother's care and deemed no longer a threat to society. But the hospital staff disagreed. After the murders, one staff member even said on TV that it was his turn to be released and nothing we said or did was relevant, and he thought Chase was sick and dangerous. He needed extensive care and was not receiving as much care as he needed. Without consulting the doctors, his mother weaned him off of his medication, his psychotic medications, because she disliked him being a zombie-like. She got him in another apartment. He graduated from eating birds and rabbits to consuming dogs. He bought puppies and hung them in the apartment and cut them open, drinking their blood and eating their raw guts. A neighbor stated she'd see him wandering around aimlessly with his mouth open, and when she said hello, he'd not speak back. She'd seen dogs and cats come in which there was there wasn't a no pet policy. But what made it stranger was she never saw the animals again. So he wouldn't allow guests other than his mom, but eventually he stopped letting his mom in her, and they only spoke through a cracked door. I'm guessing, the carnage. He was lazy. He left, Anyway, later investigation uncovered that in 1977, Chase was stopped and arrested on a native reservation in Pyramid Lake, Nevada, half naked, smeared with blood, and a liver found in a bucket inside his truck. Police reported possible homicide, but witnesses said Chase had a dog with him earlier that day, but it was never recovered. When questioned by the cops, Chase said that the blood was seeping out of him and he didn't know what happened to the dog. The blood was determined to be a cow blood and no charges were filed. Where in the world did he get a cow liver? I don't know. Anyway, 1977, he purchased a .22 caliber. Neighbors soon began hearing gunshots, and Chase later claimed he was shooting at voices he heard. He continued killing and eating dogs, shooting them in the head to make the draining the blood easier. But on December 29, 1977, Chase killed his first human victim by drive-by shooting. Ambrose Griffin, a 50-year-old engineer, father of two, was unloading groceries in his driveway when a bullet struck. His wife initially believed it was a heart attack. The shooting baffled police. Chase claimed that right before the murder, he was angry that his mother wouldn't allow him to come over for Christmas because his sister was afraid of him because of an incident where he ripped a cat apart in front of his mother and smeared the blood all over himself after arguing with each other. Can you imagine why she was scared? Yeah, crazy shit when I turn. But, anyway, 2 weeks after the first murder, Chase attempted to enter the home of another woman, but because the door was locked, he took it as a sign that he wasn't wanted. He took it as a sign he wasn't wanted. But if the doors were unlocked, that meant that there was an invitation to come in. Sound like a vampire to you? Anyway, so on one occasion he was caught and ran off by a couple while rummaging through their belongings and urinating and defecating on their infant's bed and clothing. He broke into an empty house, attempted to set fire to the drapes. Chase later saying he believed them to be spying on him and he wanted them to leave the neighborhood. On January 23rd, 1978, Chase broke into Teresa Wallen's family home while her husband was at work. She was 3 months pregnant, and she was spotted by Chase while she was taking out the garbage. This is horrible. First, he shot her hand because she was trying to protect herself. And the second shot went in her cheek, breaking her jaw. Before shooting her in the head, rendering her unconscious. He then had intercourse with her dead body while continuing to stab her in the stomach. Pregnant, stabbing her in the stomach. With a butcher knife from her very own kitchen, he removed multiple organs, including her spleen, which was completely cut out of her body. And he rearranged all her other organs inside her body. And cut off her nipple and drank her blood from a yogurt cup that he found in the garbage, her garbage. And stuffed dog feces down her throat before he walked out and left. This is where it was considered an unorganized killer. He wore gloves, but the knife was left at the scene. No effort to clean up. No to, get rid of traces of him. He didn't care. Later it was determined Wallen was still alive during some of the mutilations, and remnants of her unborn fetus were also found. And her body was discovered by her husband after coming home from his trucking job. He saw just a glimpse of the carnage before screaming and running for help. Anyway, the Meredith family murders occurred on January 27th, 1978. Chase had entered the home of divorced 36-year-old Evelyn Merritt and proceeded to slaughter everyone there. 2 victims were just children. Chase claimed to be semi-conscious during the attack, so the attack order is a little unclear. Near the door was Dan Meredith. He was introduced to Evelyn through the sister after being treated for a brain tumor at the time. He was shot fatally in the head twice. Then he went on to kill Evelyn with 1 shot to the head, followed by her 6-year-old boy, Jason, and her 22-month-old nephew, Ferrara. Then he mutilated Evelyn with her kitchen knife and engaged in necrophilia and cannibalism. Like Wallen, he cut out her organs and cut them open. And in addition to repeatedly stabbing her in her anus and attempting to cut her eye out, her stab wounds were so severe that once her anus went all the way through into her uterus. Meanwhile, he was raping her anally after, during, I don't know how it worked, but supposedly he had prior impotency, but he can commit acts of necrophilia. Anyways, Chase also stabbed 22-month-old Ferrara in his anus and cut open a section of the baby's skull to make drinking his blood easier, he said. Evidence shows that he shot the baby in his crib and dragged Evelyn's corpse into her bed where she was found. And there was a bath full of blood, suggesting Evelyn was in the bath when Chase entered the house. Investigators that worked the case say that it was possible that Chase was bathing in the tub full of blood. While the mutilations were taking place, 6-year-old Tracy Grandgard began knocking at the door to pick Jason up. They had a family trip planned. His family was taking him off with them for the day. When she knocked, it caused Chase to panic, and he took the baby Ferrara, and ran with him. He fled in Dan's car and took him to the apartment, and supposedly Chase blacked out again. And Chase went on to decapitate the baby and consume parts of the baby's brain. When asked why, he said he was hungry. He thought he was eating something else other than a baby. I figure it must have been some good, crazy shit. Anyway, so 3 knives had been used during the mutilations, and Chase left behind 2 of them, went inside the house and went out in the yard. Once again, he left evidence behind, along with his semen. And the family of the girl that startled Chase, they had notified the cops. The investigators described the scene of the house as a house of carnage. And described how difficult it was to see. One of the investigators had a boy, Jason's age, and Jason was all decked out in his new clothes, excited and ready to go on his day trip. He was about to have the best day of his life, just for that to happen. And the police investigation revealed that they found complete feet and handprints left by the killer in Evelyn's blood, and due to the nature of the crime, linked Evelyn's death to Teresa Wallen's. Anyway, I'm going to skip all the details. They got together criminal profiling the case, and basically they were right on the money. They knew what type of person they were looking for, and everything else, but it took one lead to find him. A high school girl that Chase went to high school with had previously, this few days before Teresa Wallen's death, seen Chase at a grocery store, and he was talking. He was wearing that orange parka that he was wearing during the murders, and he was weird, and he was saying something strange, and it just caught her off guard, and he came to her car, and she locked the door and took off, and it messed with her head. And that was their lead. And they found Chase. They found his apartment. And it was all because of her. Somebody, I guess, one of the witnesses had said that they had seen him in that orange Parker earlier with blood all on it, too. So, 2 and 2 together, it was him. The investigators went to the apartment of him, and they noted that the ceilings, walls, and refrigerator, utensils, everything was covered in blood. Several dog collars were found, along with rotted organs that belonged to animals and some of his victims, along with gun magazines, psychology magazines, and there was a book titled Psychic People, and a newspaper with classified ads circled about dogs being for sale. So, on his calendar, the dates of his victims, it said today. So Teresa Wallen's death and the Mirth family death, it said today on the calendar. And not just that, but there was 44 more dates written today throughout 1978. So he had 44 more victims he was going to do the same thing to if he hadn't gotten caught. And he wouldn't allow the police to come in. Of course not. I mean, so they pretended to leave, waited till he left, and then they cornered him. He gave chase, literally. His name's Chase. He ran. They caught him. He tried to resist, fought. Anyway, needless to say, he went to jail. But he was very uncooperative, claiming that the bodies were only animal, and that the Italians were framing him that he didn't harm any humans. It was just all animals. And that there was a blonde going in and out of his apartment wearing the exact same jacket as his. And it wasn't until March 2nd, 1978 that the decomposed corpse of baby Ferrara was found in a garbage bin. The body was placed inside a box. It's like a shoe box. I'm going to show pictures of everything. Days after his capture, he was asked about his mental history, and he gave vague description. And then he was asked what was on his mind, and he wouldn't speak. So the psychiatrist asked what was on the screen of his mind, to where he answered normal things. And an exploding 747 jetliner. He said he saw lights in the sky, which may have been UFOs, and incorrectly claimed he was Jewish and that he was beaten up by the Italians because he's Jewish. Chase did trial in 1979 on 6 counts of murder. In order to avoid the death penalty, his lawyers tried to get him a second-degree murder charge because it wasn't premeditated. It would have been a life sentence. But the case hinged on Chase's mental history and that his crimes weren't premeditated. But then went on to plead temporary insanity. So, on May 8, 1979, Chase was found guilty of all charges and the first-degree murder charge, and was sentenced to death in the gas chamber. He never made it because as of December 26, 1980, at 11:05 a.m., Chase was found dead in his prison cell from an overdose of Sinequin. It's a nerve pill. A drug that they administer for depression and hallucinations. He took 36 times the normal limit. So what they figured was every time they would give him his medicine, he was hiding it and waited until he had enough to completely get the job done and kill himself. So there was a bunch of weird things left, like 4 sheets of paper covered in handwriting. 2 contained drawn squares filled with an unknown code, and the other 2 squares had a message saying he may take some pills that might cause his heart to stop beating. The exact reasons for his apparent suicide remain unknown. I guess he wanted to pick his way of going. In my opinion, it's really not unknown. I mean, most people that are on death penalty kill themselves because they'd rather take their own lives instead of wait it out. But this is a case of someone mentally unstable going unnoticed and untreated. He should have been in a mental institution a long time ago. these people would not have had to lose their lives had someone done something way before this happened. We need to start paying attention to people around us, the people you love. Start noticing things and talk to them and get them some help. But that was the case of the Vampire of Sacramento. And if you have any suggestions, please comment. Like I said, mysteries, documentaries, anything. Just let me know what you would like to hear from me next. I hope you enjoyed this. This was my first attempt at doing this. So please be kind. And have a wonderful, wonderful week. Thank you, everyone.